She thought a black man in a Rolls-Royce could never belong in her fancy neighborhood. So she grabbed her phone, called 911, and demanded the police remove him for driving a stolen car. She stood there smiling, arms crossed, waiting for handcuffs to snap on the criminal. But when the officer stepped out and said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Kingston," that smile vanished forever. Because the man she just tried to have arrested actually owns her house, her street, and every single blade of grass she thought she controlled. And in the next 10 minutes that followed, she lost everything. Stay with me, because this true story of instant karma is going to feel so good you'll want to cheer out loud. Denise Patterson thought she knew everything about her neighborhood. As HOA president, she had made it her business to know who belonged and who didn't. So when she saw a black man stepping out of a brand new Rolls-Royce Phantom in front of the Riverside Estates clubhouse, she didn't hesitate. She called 911, reported a suspicious person in a stolen luxury vehicle, and waited confidently for the police to arrive. But what she didn't know was that Julian Kingston wasn't just wealthy. He was the majority shareholder of the company that now owned her home, her street, and every common area she thought she ruled. And her phone call was about to cost her everything. The afternoon sun poured golden light across Riverside Estates, one of Atlanta's most exclusive gated communities. The clubhouse parking lot was almost empty. Just a few staff cars, and a silver Lexus parked in the spot marked HOA President. Julian Kingston pulled his white Rolls-Royce Phantom into a visitor space. The car glided in silence, the famous Spirit of Ecstasy hood ornament catching the sunlight, the paint shining like liquid metal. He had just finished a downtown meeting with his investment team and decided to stop by the clubhouse to look over some paperwork on a new property deal. At 38, Julian had built an empire in commercial real estate, tech investments, and smart buyouts. He owned properties in 7 states, and Riverside Estates was his newest purchase. Most residents had no idea their whole community now belonged to Kingston Holdings. Julian stepped out in a perfect charcoal gray suit, leather briefcase in hand, and started walking toward the clubhouse door. He never noticed the woman watching him from the window with narrowed eyes at the window. Denise Patterson had been HOA president for 6 long years. She prided herself on knowing every resident, every visitor, every car that came through those gates. And she had never seen this black man or this Rolls-Royce before. Something was wrong. Had to be. She grabbed her phone, marched outside, heels clicking like gunshots on the pavement. "Excuse me," she called, voice sharp enough to cut glass. Julian turned, calm and polite. "Yes?" Denise walked right up to him, phone already in her hand like a loaded weapon. "I'm Denise Patterson, president of the Riverside Estates HOA. I don't believe I've seen you before. Are you visiting someone?" Julian's eyes flicked to the phone, then back to her face. He'd heard that tone too many times in his life. "I'm here on business," he said quietly. "Business?" Denise repeated, eyebrows shooting up. "What kind of business?" "Property matters." "Property matters," she echoed, dripping with doubt. "And whose property would that be?" Julian studied her for a second. He could have ended it right there, pulled out ID, watched her world crumble. But something about her smug certainty made him wait. "I'm reviewing some documents about the community," he said simply. Denise's eyes turned to slits. "I'm the HOA president. Any business about this community goes through me. And I don't have any meetings on my calendar today." She waved at the Rolls-Royce. "That's a very expensive car. What do you do for a living?" The question hung heavy in the air. Julian kept his voice even. "I'm in investments." "Investments?" She tasted the word like it was spoiled milk. "And you just decided to pull up in, whatever that is, without an appointment? I didn't realize I needed permission to use the clubhouse office." "You're not a resident," she snapped. "I know every resident here, and you are definitely not one of them." Julian slipped one hand in his pocket. "So you're always this welcoming to visitors?" "I'm welcoming to legitimate visitors. I take security very seriously." She lifted her phone higher. Now I'm asking one last time, who are you here to see? I'm not here to see anyone. I'm here to work in the clubhouse office. Denise's face turned red. That's not how this works. You can't just show up in that car and claim you have business. She paused, then let the words fly. For all I know, that car is stolen. Julian went perfectly still. Stolen? It wouldn't be the first time, she said, confidence flooding back. Luxury car theft is a real problem. And you don't exactly look like someone who can afford a Rolls-Royce. There it was. Out in the open. Julian's voice stayed calm, but ice calm. And what exactly does someone who can afford a Rolls-Royce look like, Mrs. Patterson? She realized she'd gone too far, but pride wouldn't let her back down. I'm calling the police. They can check your story and see if that vehicle is really yours. You're calling the police because I'm standing in a parking lot? I'm calling because you're a suspicious person in an unverified vehicle on private property. She was already dialing. Hello, yes, 911? I need to report a suspicious individual at Riverside Estates. Black male, about 6 feet tall, driving what looks like a Rolls-Royce. I believe the vehicle may be stolen and he's trespassing. Julian listened to every word. He'd heard this script before. When she hung up, he asked softly, Are you sure you want to do this? I'm absolutely sure. Police will be here in 5 minutes, and then we'll find out who you really are. Julian nodded once. 5 minutes. All right. He walked to a nearby bench, sat down, placed his briefcase beside him, and waited, calm as Sunday morning. Denise stood with arms crossed, phone ready in case she needed to call again. 3 other residents came out of the clubhouse, drawn by the noise. They formed a little cluster, watching. Denise, what's going on? An older man named Frank asked. I'm handling a security situation, she announced loud enough for Julian to hear. This man showed up claiming he has business here, but he's not a resident and won't show proper ID. I never refused ID, Julian said calmly. You never asked for it. You went straight to 911. 4 minutes later, a patrol car rolled through the gates. Officer Maria Martinez stepped out, mid-30s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense walk. Denise rushed over. Officer, thank goodness. This man is trespassing and I believe that car is stolen. Officer Martinez looked past Denise, straight at Julian sitting on the bench. Her eyes widened just a little. Then a tiny smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Good afternoon, Mr. Kingston, she said, walking right past Denise. Denise froze. You know him? Officer Martinez ignored her for a second. Sir, did Mrs. Patterson ask you to leave the property? No, Julian said. She called you before we got that far. Martinez turned to Denise. Ma'am, what exactly is the emergency? He's trespassing. He pulled up in that car, claims he has business here, but he's not a resident. The car could be stolen. Officer Martinez glanced at the Rolls-Royce, then back at Julian. Mr. Kingston, is that your vehicle? It is. And you're here because? I own property in this community and needed to review some paperwork in the clubhouse office. Denise practically shouted. He can't own property here. I would know. Officer Martinez's patience was thinning. Ma'am, step back please. She turned to Julian. May I see ID and registration, sir? Julian handed them over without a word. Martinez ran the plates and license. Everything came back clean, registered to Julian Alexander Kingston, no flags, no wants. She handed the documents back. Everything checks out, Mr. Kingston. Sorry for the trouble. Denise's mouth fell open. That's it? You're just taking his word? Ma'am, Martinez cut in, voice like steel. Making a false police report is a crime. Choose your next words very carefully. Julian stood, picked up his briefcase. Officer Martinez, thank you. Mrs. Patterson, let's take this inside the clubhouse. We need to talk. I'm not going anywhere with you. Denise's voice cracked. Then we'll have the conversation right here, in front of everyone. Julian's voice stayed calm, but now it carried weight. My name is Julian Alexander Kingston. I'm founder and CEO of Kingston Holdings. 6 months ago, my company bought Riverside Estates, the common areas, the clubhouse, the gates, the land your houses sit on. Your HOA now operates under my company's oversight. That means, Mrs. Patterson, you actually work for me. Dead silence. Denise went ghost white. That's impossible. We would have been told. You were told, Julian said. 3 letters, 2 emails, 1 registered package. All ignored. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, turned the screen to her. Here's the first notice, January 15th. Second, February 3rd. Final notice, March 1st. All sent to the email you list as HOA president. Denise stared at the screen like it was on fire. Julian kept going. 3 certified letters were signed for by your assistant, Margaret. Margaret, standing by the door, took one tiny step back. I gave them to you, Denise. You said it was just routine paperwork. The growing crowd gasped. Phones were out, recording everything. Julian's voice never rose, but every word landed like a hammer. So for 6 months you ignored official notice that ownership changed. Then, when the actual owner shows up, you call the police and accuse me of stealing my own car, because I don't look like what you think wealth should look like. Denise started shaking. Julian looked at the crowd. I was going to schedule a quiet community meeting. That's not happening anymore. Full audit of HOA finances, full review of every decision made in the last 6 months, and a new election if needed. He turned back to Denise. I'll be in the office for the next hour. I expect every financial record and meeting minute on the desk in 10 minutes. He walked inside. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Denise stood alone in the parking lot, mascara running, phone limp in her hand. Inside the clubhouse, Julian found the stack of unopened Kingston Holdings envelopes in the corner. He shook his head, made one call. Sarah, it's Julian. Schedule an emergency community meeting this week. Full transparency report, full audit, and start the paperwork to remove the current HOA president. An hour later, Julian walked back to his Rolls-Royce. The sun was setting. Denise watched from the clubhouse window, looking small and broken. He paused at the car door, looked straight at her, gave one slow nod, not of acknowledgement, not forgiveness. Then he got in, started the silent engine, and drove through the gates he now owned. This time, justice didn't need handcuffs. It just needed the truth. And that truth rolled out on 22-inch wheels. If this story fired you up, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next one. See you in the next video.